podcasting from Portland East to Portland West, from Big Pine Key to Pacific Beach, and from San Juan to Guam. This is All Across America. All right, JT Martin, thanks for being on All Across America.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
So I was reading that you're a fifth-generation Nebraskan. You were living in New York and San Francisco, and in 2020 you came back to the state. Given the year, I've got a sense of why, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Yeah, well, I was working in media in New York City at the time, and my dad, he's an infectious disease research physician. So when COVID happened, he's like, the whole world's going to shut down. You need to pull money out of the ATM and like come straight back to Nebraska to like live in a bunker or something like that. I don't know if he actually meant that, but I got out of New York City the second week of lockdown because I just knew that there would be a better life for me in the Midwest at the time. I could work remote in media, so it worked out for me. So I was out.
Yes. And where did you go to first? And how'd you get there?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I flew. I think there was like two people on my plane. So it was kind of crazy. I remember I vlogged the whole thing, I'm like on the subway, there's nobody on it, so flew home or flew to my parents' home. My parents, lived back in Nebraska at the time. So flew there. Lincoln is where they live. So laid low with them and you can't love Nebraska, especially in the springtime, right as COVID was picking up. It was just such a great place. Kind of like touch earth again after living in New York City and San Francisco for a number of years before that too. Just kind of like working in media, getting my career started. But yeah, getting back to my roots in Nebraska was the perfect timing for me.
Yeah, it really was. Before we get into it, did your dad make you sleep in the basement for 2 weeks to quarantine or?
100%. My parents, especially in the Midwest, people were not messing with these New Yorkers flying in.
Right. And so you're the creator of the Corn Belt social media site. When did you create it, and what got you started? What got you into it?
Yeah, so it started as a podcast actually, right in 2020 when I moved back, met a gentleman who was running a podcasting agency. I'm like, hey, let's start a podcast. So it was all about like Nebraskan entrepreneurship and pride. Well, growing a podcast, as you probably know from doing all across America, like it's a tough grind. Like, making it, monetizable and make, turn it into like a real like media property. It takes time. So I'm like, hey, how can I speed this up? Short form video is the way to do it, in 2022
It
at the
is.
time. So I saw a number of other states that had these like state pride accounts. It's like best things to do in Texas, best, check out this sunset in California. I'm like, why doesn't Nebraska have this? There's like a real gap here. And, so much of like Nebraska journalism has just been, kneecapped by like social media and budget cuts. So like the local media presence that we really had in the Midwest for, forever has really kind of declined in recent years. So, I kind of started doing, like personality pieces on different people and places to go, things to do, covering some current events and stuff like that. And like people just really gravitated towards it. It's like, oh my gosh, like Midwest representation, Nebraska representation on social media. If I see my state on social media, like I'm going to follow that and click it because
Right.
Nebraska doesn't get represented. We're left out of
Yes.
everything, which is
Yes.
it's okay. We like it that way. We like feeling.
I mean, it's such a great state. I can't remember if I told you, but I've been to the state a couple of times. I did a podcasting trip to Nebraska just around this time last June, met up with a friend of yours, mutual friend Sheila Jenkinson of the Growing Small Town Nebraska podcast. So we flew into Omaha, drove over to Grand Island, met with her there, and then headed out to Alliance. My dad went to Chadron State, and I'm from New York originally, and he's from Staten Island, and I still can't gather why he went to Chadron State from New York City as a kid in I guess this would have been the late 1960s. But, and,
Wow.
I feel like a lot of people, they know Nebraska one of two ways, one flying over it or driving through it on Route 80. And I feel like there's just so much more to the state. And I just love the state of Nebraska. And one of the things for me that I love about your pod, or I should say your social media site, is your map. where did you come up with the concept of, for folks who haven't seen it, you throw a dart at a giant map of Nebraska?
Yeah, and I gotta say, Mark, just to your point about how you came to Nebraska to film your podcast or to record your podcast, how much when you emailed me about doing this podcast, how much I respected that you actually came here and did a
Oh,
podcast.
yes.
There's so many people who they're like, okay, we'll give Nebraska a little bit of love, but we're gonna do it from the coast, and like we're not gonna actually come there ourselves. So you came here, and your pops went to college here. I didn't know that either. That's super.
Yes, yes, yeah, we did, I'm a boots on the ground kind of person, so I've recorded on location in over 10 states now, so, I can't be everywhere all over the country, I can't be in, Guam and American Samoa and Wake Island and all the far-flung places, but, yeah, when I can get out there, I do, and it was actually by accident, and that Sheila Jenkinson of the Growing Small Town Nebraska podcast said, "Hey, you should come out for a FAM trip," in FAM, capital letters, and in the tourism industry, I guess it means something else, but I was like, "Family trip. Okay, let's do it." So I was like impromptu. I'm like, "Let me bring my dad along." And so we ended up in 5 states. So I
Oh,
got to see the eastern, central, and, western part of the state, and just love being on Route 2 and through the sand hills. That had been a real dream of mine, was to see the sand hills, and I was not disappointed. So
oh my gosh. Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for giving us a little love, staying at our local hotels and, supporting local business. That's awesome. Thank
oh, yeah.
you. Yeah.
So
And
what
yeah, your
where did you come
question
up with this map trick?
the map trick, man. I didn't know that was gonna become my calling card, but that's what people know me as. And for people who are listening who might not have seen this, I basically printed off a it's probably 10 feet by 20-foot big rectangle map of the state of Nebraska. I started doing it with I literally just like printed probably 100 sheets of paper at my office, used up all the ink in the printer, and just taped them all to the wall in this room that nobody uses in the basement. So I'm like, "Oh, I can just, like, paint over this wall." Like, I could put a bunch of holes by, like, throwing a dart at this wall, right? Because it's, like, in the basement. And so what I would do is I'd cover my eyes, I'd take a dart, and I'd throw it at the wall, and wherever it landed, I went there and found whatever the, unique part of that place in Nebraska was, right? So, like,
Yeah.
one time I hit like a ghost town, for example, which is like not something I would have thought to go see. But then once I hit, I'm like, oh, this could be a really cool story. And so the caption for the video became, we hit a ghost town in Nebraska. And then people see me throw the dart and go to the place. And it just creates what the closest thing I could, relate it to is like it's almost like a slot machine, It gets
Yeah.
people's like anticipation going, like, oh, is he gonna hit my town? Like, what's he gonna hit? Like this he could drop in on a, anything. Like I've never been to Nebraska. I don't know. So I think that like that feeling of like just anticipation of like where that dart's gonna land, it became like a really good content strategy for me and just a really cool way to show Nebraska in like a funky, different way that gets everybody excited when one of those videos pops up.
I love it, and I know social media has got such a copycat culture, and, people like something, you'll see it repeat itself, and so have you seen people like you in other states do the exact same thing?
Oh, for sure. And to be honest, when I started doing it like 3 years ago, I'm sure that I saw someone in fact, I know I don't remember if it was a map that they threw the dart at. It might have been like they had like faces of different celebrities and they were gonna throw it and then like do like a makeover of the celebrity or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but yes, everything on social media is either copied or is being copied. So
Right.
totally, and yeah, I do see a lot more people using this method. I even, I work with, different regions on, like, regional marketing, like, I do, like, marketing consulting, and so I help different regions, like, implement the dart throw method because it just
Oh,
works so
wow.
well, and,
Yeah.
yeah, like, wherever you go, like, I've seen people in New York even, like, do it, and then they go to, like, a random part of New York, and, you know, there's not a bad block in New York, like, you're gonna have fun wherever you go, so it's a
Yeah.
perfect format.
And speaking of that ghost town, it was Brocksburg, I believe, in the northern part of the state, and I mean, it was really cool. It wasn't just abandoned buildings, there were tunnels. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, man, you did your homework, Mark. Thank you for watching that. Yeah, so, yeah, we landed on this Brocksburg, Nebraska, and I guess it was started by a German guy. I can't remember the year, I think in the late 1800s, but there's, like all kinds of like old artifacts there, and like there's like children's shoes and old like televisions that have been like broken in and stuff. So just like visually, like seeing like this like kind of like time capsule of like what life was like in like the 1950s. I think it was the 50s when the town went under, but I found an old cellar that I thought was maybe a tunnel system because you know, didn't have a root cellar at my house growing up, but apparently that was how you stored food back in the day. You know, it's cold, it's underground, but so like I'm like crawling down into what looks like this like concrete tunnel coming up out of the ground, and people on social media, of course, they're like, "What is this? Is this the bathrooms?" You know, I don't know if you've seen that movie of this like there's this like mysterious world underground. So that got a ton of engagement, and also got a ton of people making fun of me for not knowing what a root cellar was. But, it's just an adventure. You never know what you're gonna get, and, like, if you just have fun with it and don't take yourself too seriously, like, exploring Nebraska is just so fun, and I mean, anywhere that you go, you can find adventure, I believe, and in Nebraska, I've totally found adventure here. It's a good time.
Yeah, it's not hard to do. I mean, I'm a firm believer in the old expression that boring people are or bored people are boring, and there's just so much to be found. And I mean, one of the things I love is just going camping in a random spot in Nebraska, and I feel like one, that's awesome, but two, there's not very many states in the country that you could really do that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and sometimes when I throw the dart, I have to kinda fudge where it landed because it's all cornfields for the most part, so there is some public land that you can go camp on, so, I'll kinda, like, track it to, like, the nearest public land, like, a mile over or so, and be like, "Okay, this is where we're gonna post up," and, there's a lot of empty space up in the sandhills up in Beth where your dad went to
Yeah,
college, like,
yeah,
there's all kinds of fun places to go and explore, and, like, it is breathtaking. Like, when you see these drone shots of, like you're basically in this ocean of prairie grass,
it's
and there's
cool.
just these
Yeah,
beautiful, like, very gentle rolling hills that kinda, like, form, the prairie, and
yeah.
um, it takes a certain soul to really, like, fall in love with the peace of of that, and, yeah, it's fun to kinda find adventure in that too.
I mean, it was just such a surreal feeling. It reminds me of Windows computers back in the day used to open with this picture of the grass,
Yeah.
and that was, like, the famous shot, and I'm like I felt like I was, like, living in that opening scene of, like, this just I mean, greenest of green, lush grass and, like, blue skies above it. It definitely felt like I mean, a little like heaven in some ways. It just didn't feel like being on Earth.
Yeah, you nailed it. There's so many memes about that picture, and for people who aren't familiar with it, there's a very distinct, like, geographical region in Nebraska called the Sand Hills that the dirt is a little bit too sandy for agriculture, so people have kind of tried to farm it over the years, but it's kind of just best left. It's kind of just been left to be the prairie, and it's out kind of in western Nebraska. And yeah, it's got that beautiful rolling green hills. Like, yeah, it looks like the Windows screensaver, or like I've heard people call it like the Teletubbies land, if you've seen that, or kind of like Lord of the Rings, kind of like the Shire. There's just these beautiful dunes, really cool golf courses out there too, because it's so much like it
Yes.
resembles like the like Ireland countryside. And there's
Yes,
naturally
yes.
occurring sand bunkers. So like you get these golf courses that just feel like they were just kind of like carved out of the landscape, and it's really cool.
And the, golf courses in Nebraska, I mean, I know just a few of them have this, but have sand greens as opposed to grass greens.
What good knowledge, good knowledge. There's a couple of places that, and they host these golf tournaments out there where, it's just, it's so, uh, I don't know what you would call it, just like rugged, and people go out and they play golf tournaments on these sand greens because obviously it's cheaper to take care of sand greens, and,
Right.
you gotta water it and all that stuff. So there's one tournament, I can't remember what it's called or where it is now. I'm kind of blanking on the name, but you have to like rope a calf, shoot. I think you're shooting clays, and then you golf 9 holes of golf. And it's like the shoot, rope, and putt, I think is what it's called, or something like that. And it's on sand greens too. I'll have to look that up. I'm kind of blanking on it now, but yeah.
And so you lived on both coasts. What was it like when you would tell people you're from Nebraska? I mean, what were the stereotypes? How often did you hear, flyover country? I'm sure it's an expression that you hate and you're sick of hearing. Like, what were some of the stereotypes you heard before moving back?
Yeah, I mean, people the first thing that they say is the Cornhuskers. How are the Cornhuskers going to be this year? So it's kind of nice that like we had a good football team for so long, because it really broke the ice. Everybody knew about it. It was like the
Yeah.
perfect, kind of thing to talk about. But P people, I've had so many people come and visit me from the coast now that I live in Nebraska, because 'cause they're so morbidly curious about, like, what goes on here, you know? So, I think that although people, they say, "Oh, I would never be caught dead in Nebraska." I think that there is something about people's hearts that, like, long for
Yeah.
the peace and I don't know, just kinda the separation from the rat race that's here in Nebraska. And I think that people really enjoy kind of experiencing that through my content as well, and kind of experiencing that with me. It's like this is almost like an alternate universe from what they're used to. And yeah, I mean, it's really only been good things about Nebraska. Of course, you're going to get the your heckler here or there that's going to give you a hard
Right.
time, but yeah, I really felt like, just especially since doing the content and telling stories about Nebraska, just like an outpouring of love and appreciation. And maybe that has something to do with the current time that we're in, where it feels like inflation is getting out of control. And like, I mean, when does the world not feel like it's coming to an end? It's like every 5 years there's like a new emergency. But like this moment right now, for some reason, feels, and maybe it's my age group too. I'm a millennial, so millennials are really looking for the American dream. Like, where are we gonna find it? Where can we make, where are families still even like a viable option? And
Right. Right.
a lot of people, like Nebraska's has the second highest birth rate in the country, just behind South Dakota, who's just north of us. And
Wow.
there's a
Okay.
reason, because like the infrastructure here is built around like nurturing and providing and protecting, family life for,
Yeah.
whatever type of family life you want to pursue. But it's just it really is such like, just kinda like a family-driven place, which is super charming in its own way. And it's got a yeah, it's just it feels like you can still find the American dream here.
You know what's really charming to me about Nebraska?
Mm.
It's affordable. You could buy a home.
Yes.
It's
You
very hard to do in New York and San Francisco, but in Nebraska, you could do it.
you can do it. That's exactly why I was so excited to come back here. It's like, hey, this is I also have, like, family support here, which is great. It's great to be
Yeah,
close to family too, so, you know, yeah, I can't say enough. And I think we have a branding, you know, problem, I guess I would call it. Not to point fingers, but like I think we can do a much better job of telling the story of Nebraska. And just
yeah,
like Nebraskans, we're so humble, and that's kind of part of our DNA, is not to brag too much and kind of downplay things and be humble. But I think that especially millennials, just people my age, I think would find a lot of peace if they found their way here. So
I
that's my
think
pitch.
so.
Anyone listening,
Yeah,
think you're
yeah.
relocating,
Well,
give me an
my my
email,
wife
get you set
my
up.
wife had a colleague, she's a teacher who was in New York City for, I don't know, 15, 20 years and moved to Omaha, and then, she had 2 small children, and, this was just within the last year, and she loves it, and she's so happy that she did it, and, had wish she had done it sooner. So, for a lot of folks, whether you have family or not in the state, it's yeah, I heard something on NPR just last week about a lot of communities have, or I should say a lot of regions, starter homes are above $1 million, which is just ridiculous to use the term starter home and $1 million in the same sentence. And yeah, you could find that in a state like Nebraska. How is Nebraska different than the other Great Plains states? Than let's say Wyoming, which is right next door. I
Mhm.
remember reading something when I got back from my trip about Wyoming and how people there tend to be more suspicious. And
Mm,
I Yeah, I've kinda caught that myself the few times I've been in the state of Wyoming, and, my sense is maybe there's a lot of people in the oil and gas industry who are coming in and out, but N Nebraska struck me as a very friendly and welcoming state.
Mhm. Yeah, we were a railroad state, for a while, so some of the railroad towns, I think sometimes do have a little bit of suspicion in it, because
Interesting.
it's like, people kind of come in and it's kind of this like fast moving thing, and I think that can still kind of like hang out around there. I think that the number one thing that I would say is just that it's just so family oriented. I kinda mentioned that already, but, like, it's so nowhere have I ever been where all the generations you can find them hanging out in the same area, right? Like, I went to the North Platte Rodeo last weekend, and it's every single generation having a great time together. I feel like other places that I've lived or visited is very kinda
Yes.
segregated, like, all the generations kinda keep to themselves, and I don't know, there's just something really special about that, and, like, a lot of my friends on the coast, some of my best friends, been in their weddings, it's been, we know that each other so well, never met their parents before, no clue what their family's like, anything like that. But here in Nebraska, it's like you end up meeting all your friends' parents, siblings, kids, everything. It's just kind of like everyone's kind of invited to the table to hang out together. And like there's kind of like activities that cater to everyone at the same time. So I think that Nebraska does a great job of that. It's hard also for me to really compare to other states that well. Like I know that every place kind of has their stereotype, but I mean, just comparing to Iowa, which is like that's our like bitter rivals basically. Well, not to throw too much shade on Iowa, but I mean, Iowa feels like more of like the big talking state, and Nebraska feels more like the confident, understated, humble state. So if you want comparison, that's kind of the best I would give you. And honestly, Iowa's a fun time. Like I love going to concerts in Iowa because you'll get a bunch of rowdy people, having a great time. But Nebraska, I think there's this humility and there's like a real like commitment to not jump on every trend that comes around the corner, which I think is really like preserved some of the like charm of Nebraska. Something that I really disliked as a younger person when I was, coming up in the world. It's like, oh man, I wish Nebraska had this. I wish Nebraska had that. I wish it was more trendy. But it's something that I've really come to appreciate is like, you know, there's a beauty in not jumping on every trend. There's probably good reasons to not jump on every single trend. And, like, a lot of the stuff that I work on now in just saying content is about chasing trends and pushing trends forward, and so, like, learning to kinda, like, walk that tightrope between, like like honoring our Nebraska way and still pushing us forward because Nebraska, we need to tell our story. And where do you find millennials and home buyers and people to come make our population stronger because we do have like a population drain issue. They're on social media. They're
Yeah.
looking for stories on social media. So, I kind of take it upon myself to be a bit of an advocate for different, more modern media channels here. And so, but yeah, it's to me, it's the perfect mix. It's the perfect mix of like honoring the old and bringing in the new.
So let's talk about 2 biggest, cities in the state, Lincoln, Omaha. What's the difference between the 2? And, well, you said your parents are in Lincoln. I think you're in Omaha now, so it sounds like you've got a good sense of both.
Yeah, good question. I lived in Lincoln for the past 5 years, and I've lived in Omaha now for 1 year. My girlfriend lives in Omaha, so had to go up the road. And when I moved here, I thought, oh, this is just one metropolitan area, right? It's a half an hour downtown, or sorry, it's an hour downtown to downtown. Like my commute in New York City was, from the East Village down to like Battery Park. I had to take a couple subway transfers. It's like a 55-minute commute down there. So to me, I'm like, oh, this like these two towns must be just you know synonymous basically. And I found that there actually is a very different culture between Lincoln and Omaha, which I didn't expect. I didn't expect to be so different. Lincoln is it's a government town, it's a university town. Lincoln's the capital, so there's just kind of like a lot of kind of like stability in that, versus Omaha. People are taking big swings. It's a big city. Like, there's a people are trying to, move and shake a little bit. So like Lincoln has like a very kind of like subtle, steady kind of energy to it that, it can survive because it's got a big public university and it's got the the state capitals there. So, you know, yeah, man, how else can I compare the 2? Like, food is pretty dang good in both places. Like, I mean, I think Omaha has the most restaurants per capita in the country or something like that. So,
Yeah.
tons of restaurants in Nebraska. People or in Omaha, people love to come up to Omaha for restaurants, but, yeah, both places you'll just find, like, amazing schools. That's the one thing. Like, if you wanna, like, have a family and send your kids to good schools, like, Nebraska's got just such great schools, great education system. Lincoln has a little bit more of the small town, like, all the kids are playing in the street type of vibe, but some of the rural areas of in like the suburbs around Omaha, you'll really get that too. Like, the 4th of July parade that goes through downtown and all the kids are coming out and kids just kind of like run free. Like, that's kind of how I grew up. And it feels like that's been lost in a lot of big metro areas across the country. So like I love going to a place and it's like, we were out in a small town just outside. It was actually just outside of Lincoln, and it was like not 8 p.m. on a Sunday, and there's just like 50 kids like playing tag in the street. So I don't know, just fun to see.
Well, going from big cities to the very smallest city, you did a really, really great post on, Minoe. Am I
Yeah,
pronouncing that right?
Monowai, but I might be pronouncing it
M
wrong too. I don't know.
Monowai. Alright,
Yeah.
Monowai. Alright. So, can you tell us about that?
Oh man, yeah. People love Monowai for a very specific reason. It is the smallest town in the country. I think there's a couple other towns that claim to be the smallest or that probably are the smallest because they have one resident,
Yeah,
but
it's
this
kinda
one is
kinda hard to you can't what would be the expression? You can't top it, you can't bottom 1. That's it. It's either
exactly.
1 or nobody's there.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you can't say that you're the smallest town in the country, but she has had all kinds of like media things come through. Like, she had like a Coca-Cola advertisement. Arby's, did a thing with her. Like, she's done all kinds of very big kind of media work, you know, crowning her as like the smallest town in the country. And I think it helps that like just the obscurity of Nebraska. I think it has a better ring to it to be like, oh, in Nebraska is where the smallest town in the country is versus like I think there's one in Texas too that is I mean just as charming and awesome, I'm sure, but like something about it being in Nebraska feels more kind of obscure. So yeah, went up there. Her name's Elsie, and her husband died, I think 10 years ago. So she's been running the whole town by herself. She's the librarian, she's the bartender, she's the mayor. She's everything. And you go to the town and there's a tavern there, and this tavern is like it's like a time capsule of her life, basically. And there's just pictures of her and her family all over the wall. And this tavern must be at least 100 years old because it looks like it's 100 years old. And if you go there, Elsie will crack you beers. She's in there flipping burgers, and she's 91 years old. So to
God
get
bless
to
her.
go, yeah, actually, she's probably 92 or 93 now because I think I went a year and a half ago. So to get to go and like experience that, and there's so many people that bikers will come from all over the place, and people have even come from Japan to visit her, and just all over the world too. So she's kind of a hot commodity right now, and yeah, just so fun to get to show that. That's a very special part of Nebraska. LC running the Monowai Tavern is what it's called. So I always try to, find those like quirky parts about Nebraska. People just love it. People love the quirkiness of Nebraska, and our marketing department, our tourism department has leaned into that over the years. You've probably heard the honestly, it's not for everyone slogan. I don't know if you heard that one before, but
I have, yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, so
Well,
we've leaned into the quirkiness before.
good, good. So speaking of quirkiness, what are your kind of your favorite examples of that in the state?
Oh man, yeah. So my dad's hometown that he grew up in, it's called Hebron, Nebraska, and they have the world's largest porch swing. Why the world's largest porch swing? I don't know, but like you could go and sit and swing it. I mean, it's it's a place where there's a lot of people who love to be on a porch and hang out. So I could see that happening. And I think it's just a good reflection of Nebraska. It's like, hey, this is a place where you just time just drifts very slowly by as you sit in your porch swing and you just kind of like enjoy, the beauty of the Great Plains. So I think it's kind of good symbolism. But other quirky places in Nebraska, like there's the highest point in Nebraska, which is in western Nebraska, and every state has this like the highest point is Mount McKinley, or like all these like cool places, and it's just so funny to go out there and there's like basically just like a concrete stump, and it's like, here you go, this is the tallest point. You look around, and everything just looks completely flat. So uh, you can get a good laugh out of visiting that too.
Yeah, from my understanding is that's due to the Rocky Mountain continental uplift. So it's just the last very long tail of the Rocky Mountains, and it's just lifted up on that part of the state. Same with Kansas and the other Great Plains states, and I guess you would never know it, but yeah. Well, it beats Britton Hill in Florida, so you got that going for
Oh,
you.
I didn't know that there's the highest point in Florida. That's cool. That's cool.
Yes, well, I mean, that's kind of, an oxymoron, the highest point in Florida, but yeah, it's at like 200 feet, this, point called Britton Hill, but yeah, Tallahassee does have some rolling hills, believe it or not. Not as nice as Nebraska, but they're pretty nice. Where in the state, talking about different regions of the state, Nebraska is a Midwestern state, but at the same point, it's also part of the West. And, particularly when you get into that Rocky Mountain time zone, to 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 you, where does the West begin in Nebraska?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, good question. And this is something that since I grew up on the east side of Nebraska, I don't want to like offend people by calling some, oh, you're Western Nebraska. Like I've made that mistake before.
Oh, I'm sure there's a debate.
And the debate goes back to if you divided the population of Nebraska in half, right? From so half is on the west and half is on the east. Well, the first thing you have to understand is the majority of Nebraska's population is on the eastern side, right along the Missouri River, right bordering Iowa, right? So if you divided our population in half, that line would go through Omaha still.
Wow.
Yeah. And for people who don't know, Omaha is right on the river, right on the eastern border of Nebraska. So yeah, there's a lot of people in Omaha that kind of skew that. So it's kind of hard to for some people who grew up on the east side to like imagine like the west. So even me just going out there and making content, it's some people's first time ever seeing what's going on out west in Nebraska. So it's fun to educate lifelong Nebraskans on like, hey, if you drive 8 hours that way, you're almost in Colorado and there's cool stuff out
Yeah,
there. But
yeah.
I think that North Platte is western Nebraska. Kearney is central Nebraska, but somewhere in between Kearney, maybe yeah, in between Kearney and North Platte, I would say that's western Nebraska.
Yeah, Shadron and Alliance are definitely Western Nebraska, and it's got that feel of it. And there's rancher, it's cow versus cornfields, and particularly those are ranching communities. And we had the really great opportunity after I visited with Sheila in Grand Isle. We drove over to Alliance and visited one of the grain elevator operator facilities in the state, and farmer-owned cooperative that's been in business Westco since 1942. So we got to see that operation and how the railroad literally comes right to the silo, and they load the carts right from the factory and head down to Houston. But how important has the railways been to Alaska? I mean, there's a railway museum in Omaha that I've been to. Warren Buffett, of course, has been a big investor in railroads.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I wish that I had more knowledge on the railroad, but the best knowledge that I have is that the Union Pacific headquarters, which is in Omaha, which has been, hugely impactful to Nebraska. They have an awesome lunch buffet that you can go to, and it's like 5 minutes from my house. So I go there and eat the lunch buffet all the time. But that's about the extent that I know about the railroad industry here. I just I've worked in advertising and media and technology, and it just it's very cool to see such a legacy industry, being based right here in Nebraska. And if you go to the Union Pacific headquarters, it's just beautiful. And there's all kinds of awesome history in there and souvenirs and all kinds of things that you can do. People come from all over the world to kind of see our railroads and really experience it. But yeah, my family kind of has like an ag background too, so we never had much of a railroad connection. So that's something that kind of like went over my head. But, I mean,
Yeah, there are
yeah,
people when they're into railroads, they're really into railroads.
well, no, they're in the railroads, and it's also such a charming part of the history too. Like, who doesn't love railroad travel? There's been a lot of study on the economic viability of bringing back what was called the game day well, I can't remember what it was called now. I think it was called like the Husker game day train. And it was this train that ran on the Amtrak lines from Omaha down to Lincoln for football game days. And they had, an open air car where you can go and ride through the prairie on this train. They had beverages and all this stuff. And I know a lot of other regions are doing like wine trains in Sonoma and Napa Valley, and
Right.
there's a lot of train, tourism out there. So I think about, man, how cool would that be? And these folks have done these economic studies on like how viable that would be to bring that to Nebraska, bring that back to Lincoln and Omaha. I would just, if anyone's listening to this right now and you're thinking about doing this, please call me because I want to help with that project. That sounds
Yeah, sounds like a great one, and the track is already built is the key thing.
it's there. Yeah, yeah, we got plenty of track. The track's not the problem.
Yes, yeah, which is in other states, particularly California, that has been, a huge, huge issue, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Nebraska is definitely a step ahead in that direction. We were talking little bit about Warren Buffett came up. Who's your favorite famous person in
Ooh.
Nebraska, past or present?
Oh my gosh. The great question. I love this. So let me think because I want to give you a good one. Warren Buffett. That's a pretty popular one. Most famous person, past or present. I
I
mean,
had no
it's
idea Marlon Brando was from the state. That was
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like one
yeah.
of the last people you would think would be from the Midwest,
I know, I
particularly
know,
given the roles he played.
I know, man. I know. Yeah, I usually go with Johnny Carson, right? And there's a few reasons why I love Johnny Carson. The king of late night television.
Yeah,
Kind of popularized the medium a little bit, and when late night television was introduced, it was considered, you know, cheap and, kind of like it wasn't considered real media. You know what I mean? It was it was kitsch and it was, just kind of like like a way just to fill time, and then it became this beloved American, you know, obsession, with late night television. But he really kind of helped popularize that and pave the way. And just as someone who's been in media and seeing a lot of media dollars go from traditional media to this decentralized media world that we
yeah,
live in, I really kind of identify with that with a guy who took a medium and took a channel that was not as popular, and he made it this big, kind of beautiful part of American culture. So yeah, a lot of the work that I do on social media and short form video, I kind of think back okay, just 20 years from now, when this medium kind of has a little bit more credibility and a little more yeah, kind of history behind it. What are people going to say about the first days of it, and how can we make you know decentralizing media, which is like a scary thing, especially for Nebraska, that we really hold you know our image in such high regard. It's like, how can you not how can you avoid pissing off an entire population of Nebraskans with media that doesn't represent the whole of the state. And when you're reaching, I reach 200 million people on my channel. That's the number
wow.
that I give. So it's like, how do you make sure that you're representing Nebraska in the right way? And I really try to get all the voices involved so that we're doing it the right way and telling the right stories.
Sure have. Well, I mean, also you can't please all the people all the time, so,
I know.
there's always gonna be some controversy. Have you had any posts that have been particularly controversial?
Yeah, let's see. It's funny, I've been waiting for 4 years since I've been doing this to be like, when is the mob gonna come for me? Because like, everybody has that, and I keep thinking, I'm like, "Oh, this is it, this one's a little controversial, what's gonna happen?" Like, I'll do a partnership with, like, tobacco-free Nebraska, you know? That's something I believe in, healthier
Yeah,
Nebraskans, right?
sure.
But, there's a big contingent of people who Nebraska was one of the last states, I believe, to ban smoking indoors. I think it really kind of just came about in the 2010s, or I think in the 2010s. So got a little bit of pushback on the anti-Nebraska messaging, but I gotta feed my family too. So like I gotta do brand deals, and I don't you know I don't disagree with that
I
stance.
mean, you could see a problem with doing a brand deal with a cigarette
Yeah.
manufacturer, but not an anti-smoking campaign. I mean, come on.
Right, right. But there are some people that, like, they're sticking to their smoking, which I think, it's
Well,
a free country, but
it is.
yeah.
So what are some of your favorite spots, favorite festivals? What always comes to mind at the top of the list there?
I actually just last weekend went to a festival that has been on my bucket list forever, and it's called Nebraska Land Days. And it's in North Platte, so it was about 4-hour drive for me, but it's the official celebration of Nebraska. And I guess I never put that together that, like, this is, I believe it's a partnership between Game and Parks and the city of North Platte, and it was amazing. They have this huge rodeo, which I didn't really grow up with as much rodeo culture myself either. So just to get to kind of like be around all that energy and all the pageantry and all the just kind of you know effort and enthusiasm that goes into that, it was super cool. They have a big concert series this weekend, so it's a 10-day celebration of Nebraska. Man, it was very, very fun. And just going back to what I was saying earlier about just like all the generations hanging out, like it felt it felt safe. It felt like, you know, you can let your kids run around and they're not going to get lost or anything. It just felt like, everyone there was neighbors, and it had a really cool vibe to it. So Nebraska Land Days, it was the Buffalo Bill Rodeo that I think has been going on for like 150 years. And don't quote me on that, because I probably butchered that. I'm not a very good advocate for the event right now, but yeah, Buffalo Bills historic house that's still standing, and it's a landmark in Nebraska, is right across the street from the fairgrounds. So you get to go kind of experience like the Buffalo Bill history, and then you go to the Buffalo Bill rodeo. So it was a really good time. Um but yeah, other things like the College World Series is here every year. That's one of our biggest
Yes.
economic drivers. It's going on right now too. This is a great week for Nebraska, by the way. You should have been out here this weekend, Mark. You
And the College World Series is the baseball.
Baseball. Yep. Baseball College World Series. And I think they said it brings in like, I can't remember how many people or how much revenue it brings in, but it's substantial. And it's also close to my house. So we get to go over there and experience the tailgates. And my favorite part is people from all the teams come in, and seeing them, like, seeing their experience of Nebraska just change their whole perception of Nebraska, like on a dime after they come here. That's my favorite part, because Omaha's a Omaha's a clean city. There's lots of parking, there's lots of space. It's convenient.
Very
There's
true.
good food downtown. And then we've got this like world-class zoo, which, like, I don't know if all towns brag about their zoo, but the Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha, who makes these lists? I don't know, but they say it's the number one zoo in the country, and I back that up. I think San Diego has a really good one too, but
San Diego, yes. St. Louis, yes.
yeah.
Well,
So
I'm hoping, you know, Warren Buffett's getting up there, and he's been a really great philanthropist, and I hope whenever the time comes for him, that he's very generous with the state of Nebraska and the city of Omaha, and I hope he does, really great things, as he already has. So
he does do a lot. I mean, there's always going to be people who think that he's not doing enough, you know. So, and I don't really get into that argument, but yeah, hopefully he remembers us. You know,
I have to say, to be honest, the number one thing I'd like to do in Nebraska is go to a Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting.
yeah.
And you know why? Not because I'd love to go to a Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting. It would mean that I own some stock in Berkshire Hathaway. And I think one Class A share, I have to look it up, is like $700,000 or something just astronomical. So,
Hey,
yeah.
oh man, if you got in 50 years ago, you'd be real
Yeah.
happy too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right, right.
That is
Um,
well said, well said. And I tag along with other shareholders so that
I
you
see.
you get a certain amount of passes. So, and
Aha.
whenever I go there, people are like, "Oh, you're going to the shareholder meeting?" I'm like, "It's not like that. Like, I'm not."
Right, right.
Yeah,
They're like, "What kind of car are you driving to the
right.
shareholder?" Well, speaking of car driving, we were talking about the Sand Hills and, Route 2, I think is one of my favorite rides in the country. What are your other favorite rides in the state?
Man, you have done your research, Mark. Yeah, Route 2 is just it's like nothing else, and there's all kinds of quaint little towns where you can find adventure all along the way. That's a great yeah, great answer. There's I think it's and I'm pretty sure I'm partnering with the Department of Transportation right now on a project, and we're talking about doing a video around the oldest paved road in Nebraska. And the oldest paved road in Nebraska, it actually goes up, excuse me, the Scotts Bluff Monument. So, have you made it out to Scotts Bluff yet?
I have not. Let's talk about that.
Cool. It's this crazy cool rock formation, and I'm gonna butcher what kind of I don't know if it's a butte or a mountain or what you would call it, but it is so beautiful, and it kinda just comes up out of the prairie like a big ship that's just kinda, like, sailing towards you. It's completely breathtaking. So cool that we have it in Nebraska because we can point to something and be like, "Look, we've got like this like stunning, landmark. Like, give us, respect." And so thank God that it's within state lines because it's just so cool. And there's this road that kind of like goes up around the side of it, and they carved a tunnel out for it to kind of go up through this butte. And so the best way I could describe it is yeah, just like think of like a giant kind of cruise ship. I'd say maybe it's about the size of a cruise ship or two, just kind of like sitting out there in the prairie. And so yeah, you can kind of drive up and you can hike up it. There's really cool hikes and there's tunnels that are kind of carved out where the hiking trail goes through. So I would say that's probably my favorite drive is driving up through the Scottsbluff Monument.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, and it does look like it was just dropped down from the sky by, like,
Yeah.
the gods. It
Right.
just it's very strange that it's just there, and there's really nothing else around it.
No. Yeah. Yeah. There's Chimney Rock too, which looks really cool. There's a few of these little rock formations, but it's super cool.
And maybe we can talk a little bit about food, particularly around festivals. If you can describe what Runza is, there's the testicle fair. I'm probably getting that wrong, but
That's so funny that you say that because I just went to the Testicle Festival 2
oh,
days
the
ago.
testicle
Saturday.
festival. Oh my god, what a perfect name!
Perfect, and people yeah, I'm editing the video at the Testicle Festival now, and it's gonna go out in the next couple days because it just happened, and so, yeah, I've got testicles on my mind right now from this, and it was incredible. There had to have been a couple thousand people there, and this is not a big steakhouse either. It's called Round the Bend Steakhouse, and it's right in between Lincoln and Omaha. So it's about a 30-minute drive from the airport. If you're gonna fly in for Testicle Festival, I don't know how many of your listeners are gonna fly in for this, but it's what they do is it's deep fried cow testicles, right? And it's a Nebraska delicacy. It's called Rocky Mountain oysters, is what it's called. So if you see that on the menu, you know what it is, but
Ah,
it's really just like
yes.
thinly sliced and fried to where you can barely tell what the texture is. So you're not
I
going to get
see.
too grossed out by it. And people just are just putting these down the hatch. They don't even sweat it. And it's just kind of been a part of the culture. a lot of hunters eat it. That's how I was raised. It's kind of like a hunting kind of tradition. Like you stop at the diner on the way back from a hunting trip with my grandpa and my dad, and we get Rocky Mountain oysters. So I'm not sure how other people kind of like remember it, or yeah, what they related to, but that's what I related to. And so the gentleman who runs Round the Bend Steakhouse, who puts on this festival, he's incredible on Instagram as well as, or sorry, on Facebook. So look up Round the Bend Steakhouse on Facebook. You learn all about the Testicle Festival, live music, and just people come from all over the place. But it's a good time.
And I imagine there's a ridiculous amount of puns to be had.
So many puns, but I not as many as I thought. Like people there, they really kind of played it great. Like I'm looking around like, does anyone else think it's crazy that we're here right now and celebrating this? And like everyone's just nope, they stand in line, and I think that the menu says it's like bag of nuts, $15, and that's the Rocky Mountain oysters. That's the name on the item on the menu. So yeah, people are just it's normalized here, I guess.
And so it's not like a baseball size testicle, it's sliced or in like a slice of lime or a lemon slice.
Yeah, it's probably about the size of a credit card, I would say. Yeah, and
Okay. Hmm,
it's thinly sliced, so I mean, it kinda looks like yeah, like just like a thin chicken strip is what I would call it. Yeah, it tastes like
interesting.
chicken. It's not
Okay.
like chewy or anything, like it's yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty pretty normal, I
And
guess.
how about Runza?
Yeah, Runza, so Runza is I would kinda call it like an elevated Hot Pocket. It's like a Hot Pocket fast food with cabbage and beef in it, and man, I'm blanking now on what the nationality that popularized it was. And you might know, Mark. Is it Czech? I think it's a
That's the first thing that comes to mind is Czech or German.
okay. Yeah, Czech or German. So my family immigrated from Poland, so I kind of relate to like the Polish stuff. But yeah, it's it's basically like a hot pocket with cabbage and ground beef and cheese, and a nice like kind of like a doughy kind of bun. I didn't get what the hype was when I was a kid. I was like, I don't want that. I want a burger. Like, and then the older I got, the more that I was like, this is amazing. They've got one that they stuff with Swiss cheese and mushrooms, and they have their
Mm,
own like house made ranch that's basically the best ranch in the state comes from this place. And it's now what would I crave when I've had a couple drinks in me? You know, it's like I want to go and get. I want
perfect drinking food. Yes.
hate drinking food. Like, you know, like living in California, like you fall in love with like In-N-Out burgers. So like I kind of have like, my In-N-Out burger, loyalty. But man, like runs is that thing that when you're not here, you start thinking about it and you start craving it. You're like, oh man, I wish someone could like fly me in a Runza right now because it's really good.
You ever been to, one of the parts of the state that I missed was Valentine, Nebraska. I've heard such great things about that town. Have you had a chance to travel through there?
Yes, yeah, a bunch of times, man. And Valentine, it's one of those places. It's right up kind of on the north part of like north central part of Nebraska. And there's a river that runs through it called the Niobrara River. And this place, this river specifically it looks like something out of a movie, man. It's just the banks have this beautiful prairie grass growing on it. And there's a waterfall there called Smith Falls. And it's a state park. And you think in Nebraska, there's no waterfalls in Nebraska. This has to be a 50-foot waterfall.
Wow.
I mean,
No joke.
it, it's a real waterfall, and maybe it's just because you're in Nebraska and you don't get those things every few miles like you do in like California or Colorado. But like you see this thing, and it's just so breathtaking. Like I just one of my favorite places in the world is Valentine, Nebraska, because it's got Smith Falls, the waterfall. It's got the Niobrara River running straight through it. It's got the Cowboy Trail, this bike trail that runs through on old train track lines, and there's all kinds of like big like bike events that kind of go through the town, and you stop and you go to the local restaurant and bar, and Valentine is one of those special places in Nebraska. I'd kind of call it like like the Lake Tahoe of Nebraska, if you
Wow.
that. Yeah, there's amazing golf all around it, and there's, great little vacation spots and great outdoor activities. So, I mean, minus the lake part, I guess if Lake Tahoe was just a Truckee River, then I would call Valentine Lake Tahoe, but
Wow.
it's so beautiful. Mm.
Ever thought of, I mean, you've been such a great booster for the state of Nebraska, ever thought of running for public office?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Not seriously. I started looking at on Polymarket at, like, the odds for the next president of the US, 'cause, on these, like, betting apps now, you can see who has the best odds of winning president, and it's like Stephen A. Smith, LeBron James, like, all these actors and celebrities, and it's like, man, like, yeah, maybe public office is for, entertainers as well. So, yeah, I love this state, and I want to serve this state in the best way that I can. Right now, it's media. I think I've got just a really good pulse on how to, uh, you know, tell stories in a modern way, and so I think I can add a lot of value there. Public office would be great if I can make an impact. So I guess I'll just wait for someone to give me a call and tell me that I should do it, and then maybe I'll take it.
Throw a bunch of fundraising dollars at you. We'll see.
Yeah,
That would
exactly.
be
Yeah.
terrific. Um,
Right.
well, so you mentioned the Testicle Festival is coming up in terms of, your posts that you're doing. What else is happening this summer that you're excited about, that you're gonna cover? We're just, this will be released, right around 1st of July.
1st of July. Cool. Yeah. Something that's gonna happen just before the 1st of July, but I wanna plug it anyway because you gotta go next year. If you're listening to this podcast and you missed it this year, it's called the Country Drive Music Festival, and, again, it's in Ashland, so right in between Lincoln and Nebraska, perfect location for it, and it's a family-run music festival of country artists, and they're getting these, huge national country artists to come in. They're invested a ton to get, really big country artists to come in, and it's a family owned golf course, and they're going to throw this festival on the golf course. It's going to be 3 days. People are going to be camping out there. Country Drive Music Festival. If you
Alright.
haven't,
Excellent.
yeah. And then next month I'm going to be at Summerfest in O'Neill, Nebraska. That's the 15th through the 17th, I want to say, and it's O'Neill. It's kind of like right in between Omaha and Valentine. Very, very cool town with, like, all kinds of cool energy, and people are really doing a lot to lift up that town. There's gonna be, live music and just all kinds of cool stuff happening at Summerfest too. So, and then the state fair. Gotta shout out the state fair. I work with them a lot, and, you know, there's a bit of, like, an inferiority complex with Iowa State Fair because Iowa State Fair pulls a lot of Nebraskans out to it, and we're like, "No,
Oh,
spend your
really?
dollars." I mean, Iowa State Fair is iconic, right? That it
Yes. Yeah.
like, I don't know if the rest of the country would agree with that, or people listening in, kinda know about the history of the Iowa State Fair and everything, but I will give that to Iowa. They have an awesome state fair. I kinda like our state fair. Like, it's our little thing, and I support it almost every year, so I would say that too.
And that's in Grand Island, right?
Correct, correct. Man, yeah,
Alright.
you've got this down, yeah. They
Well, we
moved it.
we drove by it, that's how I know.
Yeah, you saw the big sign, yeah. They moved the fair from Lincoln to Grand Island, I think, like, a decade ago, and it caused a big stir, because
I bet.
it had been in Lincoln for forever. That it was a cool, it was kinda, like, right in the heart of the town, and it was kinda easier to get to. But,
Yeah.
people on the West, they gotta drive 7 hours to get out there, so it makes sense to kinda move it a
Yeah.
little bit further west. So they really invested in this really cool fairgrounds with, like, all kinds of infrastructure, a racetrack, showgrounds and all this stuff, and it's just a great time. Like,
Yeah.
I really like Grand Island. It feels very Nebraskan there, and,
Yeah.
never went to it in Lincoln, so can't really compare it, but,
Fair enough. Yeah. And, while we're on the topic of Grand Island, the Stir Museum gets a lot of very positive press, and I didn't get a chance to go, but, can you just talk quickly about that?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've never worked with them directly. I've been there, and I've done content there before, but so I don't know all the, like, particular kind of, you know, special parts of the Stir Museum, but just visually, it's this. It's this massive like stone structure that's right in the middle of basically like this big circular moat that goes around it. And so, any time that there is like a big structure like that in the middle of the prairie with prairie grass all around, it's just so visually cool. It's kind of like there's like that famous picture of like a Prada store. I think it's in Las Vegas, and it's just like kind of like there's like nothing behind it. Like I don't know what that visual kind of strategy is to kind of have like something beautiful and massive surrounded by like very like minimal kind of surroundings, but it's
Yes.
just it's so cool. And yeah, the exhibits are always really awesome. They have a really cool Christmas time with like a yeah, they great little Christmas activities that they do there too.
Cool. Yeah, that Prada store I've been to, it's outside of Marfa, Texas.
You've been to a lot of places, Mark, haven't
I mean, I'm the host of All Across America, so
oh,
I mean,
good.
you gotta walk the walk.
You're good, man. My goodness. You know your stuff. Holy smokes.
Yeah, and it's literally in the middle of nowhere.
Really? And
There's
and can you
nothing there.
go in there? Is it's
We went by at, like, 5 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know if it's actually I mean, it has, like, 5 it's a concept more than they're not trying to sell anything, but there might be, like, 15 things that could potentially be for sale, but, yeah, it's just it is very interesting because it just looks like this tooth that is just risen from the ground, like almost like a tomb in the middle of nowhere. And it's that distinction between flatness and just Chimney Rock or Scotts Bluff, very similar. Is that it's just prairie and then boom, this building, and it definitely the visual like representation. It's quite unique. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we're lucky in that we've got, like, the perfect canvas to make, like, cool things on because it's just so minimal, Nebraska's such, like, a
yeah.
big place, like, you can make really cool things, like, when you're driving up to Lincoln and you see Memorial Stadium, our football stadium, you can see it from so far away because it's so
Right.
massive and there's no hills or anything, it's like it's I don't know, there's something that feels really cool about, coming up on something that's just so huge out of nowhere.
Well, any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to leave us with in the state of Nebraska?
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, this has been great, Mark. Thanks for highlighting us. And I think this is your third episode on Nebraska. So I hope that we don't make people sick of Nebraska. You know, and I can hype up Nebraska all the time, but I don't want to overwhelm the audience. But man, the last thing that I would say is just if you've ever thought about visiting Nebraska, I can give you the perfect itinerary, right? You fly into Omaha. You spend the first night at the Cottonwood Hotel in Omaha, downtown Omaha, beautiful, charming hotel, and you go to the zoo, right? That's the first thing you got to do. Next, go down to Ashland, experience Ashland, stay at like a dude ranch near there, you know, ride some horses. Ashland kind of summarizes like small town Nebraska. Then go to Lincoln, go to a football game in Lincoln if you can, experience Lincoln, and then I'd say come back next time and go to Western Nebraska. I hate to leave Western Nebraska out of my recommendation, but if you only have a weekend, come here, do Omaha, Ashland, Lincoln, and then come back next time.
Could spend a lifetime in the state, and you've done it for 5 generations, so it's a amazing place to be, and the reason I've done a few shows on Nebraska is 'cause it's a state that I really love, and, hope that shows, and how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, if you wanna follow along the adventures, just find me on Instagram is probably the best place to find me. It's just at the Corn Belt.
Simple
Um,
enough.
I'm active on DM, so send me a DM if you ever have a question. If you're ever like, hey, thinking about relocating, like happy to give you tips, advice, or if you're just morbidly curious about Nebraska, like a lot of people are. I get people in like Germany, they're like, what is this Nebraska thing that I heard about? We we're not as popular as some of the other states, so it's fun to learn about, and I'm yeah happy to be your tour guide.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny when I started following you a while back, I saw that a few of my friends, and I'm based in the New York metro area, follow your page, which is and I don't know that any of them have ever been in Nebraska themselves. So, I mean,
Whoa.
you're inspiring people in the state, out of the state, in country, out of the country, which is really great. So, you've done a
Thanks, man.
great service for the state, and I'm sure that's been recognized, and been great having you on the show.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, this was awesome.
All Across America is produced by me, Marco Vig, in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Visit us on Instagram at All Across America. Check out our website, allacrossamerica.com. There's an interactive map with all our episodes, and there's a Contact Us page where you can send your reactions, guest ideas, and suggestions. So get in touch, stay connected. To me, that's what podcasting is all about. Thanks for listening.